There's a fact about sperm whales that almost nobody talks about, and once you hear it, you can't really unhear it. When a sperm whale dies and its body sinks to the ocean floor, it doesn't just disappear, it becomes an entire ecosystem. Worms, crabs, sharks, eels. Thousands of species descend on a single carcass, and some of them will still be feeding off it 100 years later. Scientists have a name for this, a whale fall, and it's one of the most dramatic transfers of energy anywhere in nature. But that's just what happens when they die. What sperm whales do while they're alive is somehow even more interesting. Most people know sperm whales as the big ones, the Moby Dick whale, the one with the enormous square head, and yeah, they are enormous. Adult males can reach 18 meters long and weigh as much as 57 tons. But the thing that makes sperm whales genuinely strange isn't their size. It's what they do to the ocean around them just by existing. Here's where I want to start. Sperm whales are deep divers, genuinely, absurdly deep. We're talking 2,000 meters down, sometimes more, holding their breath for up to 90 minutes at a stretch. They go down there to hunt squid in total darkness, at pressures that would crush a submarine that wasn't built right. They do this dozens of times a day. Every day of their lives. And every single time they come back up, they bring something with them. When sperm whales dive, they pull nutrients, particularly iron, from the deep ocean up toward the surface when they resurface, and, to put this delicately, defecate. Their waste isn't waste. It's fertilizer. It feeds the phytoplankton that live near the surface, and phytoplankton are not a minor detail. They produce roughly half of all the oxygen on Earth. Every other breath you take is connected, in some roundabout way, to creatures like the sperm whale cycling nutrients from the deep. Researchers who study this call it the whale pump, and the numbers are a little staggering. A single sperm whale can stimulate more carbon capture than thousands of trees. A healthy population of whales doesn't just live in an ocean, it actively helps regulate one. Which makes what happened next pretty uncomfortable to think about. Starting in the 1700s and accelerating hard through the 1800s, humans hunted sperm whales on an industrial scale. The target was spermaceti, a waxy oil packed inside that giant head. It burned cleaner than any other fuel available at the time. It didn't freeze in winter. It lubricated the machines that were powering the Industrial Revolution. Entire cities ran on sperm whale oil. It was genuinely irreplaceable, and so the hunting was relentless. Ships from New England, Britain, the Netherlands, and Japan spread across every ocean. Crews would spot a whale, launch small boats, row toward an animal the size of a city bus, and throw harpoons by hand. When a whale was struck, it would sound, diving hard to escape, and sometimes drag the entire boat with it. Whalers called this a Nantucket sleigh ride. It sounds almost exciting until you think about what was actually happening to the whale. By the mid-1800s, there were hundreds of whaling ships operating simultaneously. Some populations that had numbered in the thousands were reduced to single digits in specific regions. Sperm whales reproduce slowly. Females don't mature until around age 9. Pregnancies last 15 months, and a female might only have one calf every 5 years or so. You cannot sustain a population with that biology when you're killing them at that pace. Estimates vary, but somewhere between 600,000 and 1 million sperm whales were killed between the 18th and 20th centuries. The global whaling moratorium finally came into effect in 1986. By then, populations had collapsed. Here's the part that connects back to what we started with. Every whale that was killed was also a whale pump that stopped working. Every whale that sank from a harpoon rather than old age was a whale fall that fed a deep sea ecosystem for a century. We weren't just removing animals, we were dismantling infrastructure. Sperm whales are recovering now, slowly. Current estimates put the global population at around 300,000 to 450,000. Which sounds like a lot until you realize it's a fraction of what it was before industrial whaling. And because these animals live in tight multi-generational family groups led by older females, the knowledge lost when those matriarchs were killed about migration routes, feeding grounds, safe nursery zones, that's gone too. You can rebuild a population count over decades. You can't rebuild 100 years of learned ocean knowledge. What researchers have found as they've gotten closer to these animals is that sperm whales aren't just passive passengers in the ocean. They're more like keystone species, is en chas ursender stis. animals whose presence or absence has outsized effects on everything around them. Remove them, and the whole system gets quieter, less productive, less resilient. There's a research project called the Cetacean Translation Initiative, or CETI, that's been using machine learning to analyze thousands of hours of recorded sperm whale clicks, the complex sequences called codas that whales use to communicate. Early findings suggest the communication system is far more sophisticated than anyone expected. Some researchers think the structural complexity might rival human language, not in content, but in organization. They're not close to a translation yet, but the fact that we're asking the question at all says something. These are animals with the largest brains of any species that has ever lived on Earth. They have neural structures linked to memory, social bonding, and emotional processing. They teach their calves. They grieve. When 19th century whalers began killing sperm whales in larger numbers, the hunting success rate dropped by more than 50% within a few years. The whales were communicating. They were sharing information about the threat and changing their behavior in response. We've spent a long time being awed by the size of sperm whales, or scared of them, or turning them into symbols in literature. What's becoming clear the more we study them is that the more interesting thing about sperm whales isn't their power or their depth or their volume. It's their relationship to everything else. They feed the plankton that makes our oxygen. Their carcasses sustain deep sea cities for a century. Their migrations carry nutrients across entire ocean basins. And somewhere in those patterns of clicks, they may be holding a record of ocean life that goes back millions of years. Something we've barely started to listen to. If you want to go deeper on any of this, there's a link in the description to the CETI project. It's genuinely fascinating reading. And if you found this interesting, subscribe, because we're going to keep pulling on threads like this one. Next up, the reason the deep ocean is still, in a lot of ways, less explored than the surface of Mars.